Welcome to Movie Story Short, where we bring you fascinating film summaries in just a few minutes. Today, we're diving into the psychological thriller Cuckoo. The film begins with Polly, a young woman in her early 20s, moving into an old, creaky apartment in a small town. Polly is an aspiring writer, and she has come to this quiet, remote location seeking inspiration for her novel. The apartment is cheap but comes with its quirks: strange noises at night, flickering lights, and an unsettling feeling of being watched. Despite this, Polly is determined to make it her sanctuary. As she settles in, Polly meets her neighbor, a reserved yet friendly man named Simon. Simon seems eager to help her with anything she needs, from fixing a broken light bulb to sharing local tips. At first, Polly finds Simon's kindness comforting, but she can't shake the feeling that he's hiding something. Every now and then, she catches him watching her from his window, and his questions about her personal life seem a bit too intrusive. Meanwhile, Polly begins to notice odd occurrences in her apartment. Objects seem to move on their own, doors creak open in the middle of the night, and she hears whispers coming from the walls. At first, she brushes these off as her imagination running wild, but the incidents grow increasingly disturbing. One night, Polly wakes up to find a note on her kitchen table that reads, "You're not alone." Terrified, she starts to question her own sanity. Determined to get to the bottom of these events, Polly begins researching the history of her apartment. She discovers that the previous tenant, a woman named Laura, disappeared under mysterious circumstances. The locals don't seem keen on discussing Laura's case, but Polly finds a newspaper article suggesting foul play. This discovery only deepens Polly's paranoia. Polly decides to confront Simon, suspecting that he might know more than he's letting on. Simon denies any involvement in Laura's disappearance, but reveals that he, too, has experienced strange things in the building. He mentions hearing footsteps at odd hours and feeling an eerie presence. Despite his confession, Polly still doesn't fully trust him. As Polly's mental state deteriorates, she begins to experience vivid nightmares. In one particularly haunting dream, she sees Laura standing in her apartment, pointing towards the wall. When Polly wakes up, she notices a faint stain on the wall in the exact spot Laura pointed to. Driven by curiosity and fear, Polly tears away the wallpaper and discovers a hidden compartment. Inside, she finds Laura's diary. The diary reveals chilling details about Laura's final days. Laura had also experienced the strange occurrences and believed she was being watched. She suspected that Simon was behind it all, but before she could act on her suspicions, the diary ends abruptly. The final entry reads, "He's coming for me tonight." Polly confronts Simon once more, showing him the diary. Simon becomes defensive and accuses Polly of trying to frame him. Their argument escalates, and Polly decides to go to the police. However, the local authorities dismiss her claims, labeling her as overly imaginative and paranoid. Feeling isolated and desperate, Polly installs a hidden camera in her apartment to capture any unusual activity. The footage reveals something horrifying: a shadowy figure entering her apartment at night and standing over her bed as she sleeps. When she shows the footage to Simon, he's visibly shaken and insists they need to leave the building immediately. He confesses that he's been hearing voices and seeing things himself, but was too scared to admit it. Polly and Simon team up to uncover the truth about the apartment. They discover that the building's owner, Mr. Grayson, has a dark past. Years ago, he was accused of stalking and harassing tenants, but the charges were dropped due to lack of evidence. Polly and Simon confront Mr. Grayson, who denies any wrongdoing but behaves suspiciously. That night, Polly hears footsteps in her apartment. Armed with a kitchen knife, she investigates and comes face to face with Mr. Grayson. He admits to entering her apartment but claims he was only checking on her. Polly doesn't believe him and demands he leave. The confrontation turns violent, and Polly manages to fend him off, but not before he utters, "You'll never escape." As the film reaches its climax, Polly decides she can no longer stay in the apartment. She packs her belongings and prepares to leave. However, on her way out, she notices something strange about Simon's behavior. He seems overly eager for her to stay, and his demeanor shifts from concern to menacing. Polly realizes that Simon might not be the ally she thought he was. In a shocking twist, it's revealed that Simon was behind the disappearances all along. He's been manipulating Polly, feeding her paranoia, and orchestrating the strange events in her apartment. Simon's obsession with Polly mirrors his fixation on Laura, and he plans to make her his next victim. In heart-pounding final sequence, Polly fights back against Simon. Using her wits and determination, she manages to outsmart him and escape the apartment. The film ends with Polly driving away from the building, leaving her nightmare behind. As she looks in the rearview mirror, she sees Simon standing in the window, watching her with a sinister smile. And here we end the movie. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more thrilling summaries from Movie Story Short.